Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Karan Nangia. If you haven't heard part 1 yet, make sure to go back and give that a listen. As always, make sure to like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And now for the rest of the interview.
For me, the conflict that I often struggle with is the idea of, they always say know your audience and know the market. So on one hand, I feel like in modern society, it's not that difficult to build an audience in the sense that you kind of just have to see what other people are saying and just say that. Just create that echo chamber. This is going to get depressing, but just create an echo chamber and people will follow you. I don't like to do that because if I don't genuinely feel or believe something, then I'm not going to pretend like I'm knowledgeable about it, So with Trump, for example, it was interesting to me how so many people built an audience just hating Trump over the past 4 years. And this isn't to get political in that context of like his ideologies and stuff like that, but more along the lines of people built an audience hating on him. Do they genuinely feel that way? So like, what if Trump comes out and says something, which he did when he said that, hey, that $600 is not enough, you need to give them more. And you had some people quickly change their tone about him, and then you had others still hating on him. So it's kind of like, all right, even if this man does say something that you have to agree with, if you built an audience that you kind of feel like you're creatively enslaved to in satisfying them, if he now says something that you agree with, but you're making content that you disagree with it, now you're being disingenuous to your audience. Now you're being disingenuous to the people that have given you a platform. And, it just kind of goes to how deep down the rabbit hole do we want to go on? At what point do we empower or encourage people to just be genuine? It's not about analytics at some point. And you have to kind of evolve beyond that mindset, in my opinion.
Yeah. When can you become unbiased?
Exactly. Yeah, and is that even possible? Because let's say hypothetically it's not possible. Can you at least have the courage to tell your audience that you are biased about something? Can you be that forthcoming with them?
Oh man.
As opposed to just giving the stigma or the presentation that you are this unbiased person. Can you be that genuine with them? I'm always intrigued by that because I see a lot of stuff and I'm like, man, I don't really feel like y'all feel that way. But yeah, you have an audience, you have the 6-figure following, so you got to say it because God forbid you went to your profile and you saw that you were dropping followers. Like you may have a breakdown if you did that. So I guess I empathize in that regard. But are you being genuine? Are you being you? Yeah. Sorry, you were gonna say something, but I went off on a tangent.
No, I was just gonna say about going on. So let's say you are one of these big influencers. It could be a media organization. And you come back and you say, oh, you know what? There is a good point over here. You'd be shot. It's very hard to do once you're starting to build an audience, and especially if you've got a lot of followers and a lot of power or clout. I was going to talk to you about? Oh, yeah. One of the things I love about Canada, absolutely love about Canada, is our election process. You probably don't know about it. So I don't know how many, did it hit $1 trillion you guys spent on your election? I don't know. But
maybe, possibly, yeah.
Our election, from start to finish, you're going to fall off your chair, is 3 months.
Damn.
It's 3 months. We don't hear about an election. When it's called, you can start putting a sign up. And then now the political campaigns start. 3 months. If I take a look, and nothing against the way that, like, it's not us versus them, Canada versus US, but it's stressful for everybody to have and watch. And every time you turn on the TV or radio, or that's how old I am, pretty soon I'll be talking about 8-track tapes. But anyways, just hearing everything coming in from all sides, and especially if you're that person that's on the fence and you're hearing either misinformation or the truth. Okay, how do you know? And then you go into stress mode because you don't know. And I don't know. I think it puts a whole new definition of stress on society just during these years of the election coming up.
because now we are forced to ask the question of all the politicians who may use the Trump model in the future. Because if you really love your craft, for example, like if you're a politician and you really love it, then you're going to be studying other politicians and on how they move. So if Trump is now marketing himself as the anti-politician, like he says time and time again, I'm not a politician, and he's doing a lot of reckless things, supposedly, and he's getting that attention, like he's just getting bigger because of it, then it puts you in that trap once again. And social media works the same way. A lot of people are only doing things because other people have done them and they've gained traction, and now that's just become the norm, right? I look at girls, for example, and obviously it's your body, do what you want with it, but I back in the day in the 90s, if you were to see that type of content, you'd have to buy a premium magazine for it, right? Yeah. It wasn't just on your Instagram Explore page. So it's like, at what point did that just become the norm? And the reason it did is because people say, "Oh, wow, I showed a little bit of skin, or I wore this particular outfit that revealed a lot, and damn, I added 5,000 followers." Now you have young women who may look at that and say, "Oh, okay, so that's how you build an audience. I just got to get naked for the gram." And it's scary. It's really scary, and I feel like just even talking about that can be perceived the wrong way. It's like someone can just call me a misogynist for not wanting girls to get naked on Instagram for likes and comments, like, and I'm just like, all right, if that makes me misogynist, then I guess I'm a misogynist.
Yeah, but then it goes the other way, or it's yeah. I mean, you don't know if it's gonna hit a good note or a bad note.
And I've also done this multiple times throughout over the past 5 years, where I've just like flat out blown up my audience, in the sense that if they so at one point they expected me to talk about pop culture and film. And then I went into just started talking about philosophy and Indian mythology. So I'll constantly do that with them because, I don't know if you noticed, but like the way the quote unquote algorithm works is like, if you are building an audience for hating on Trump, basically they're just trying to box you in. So what they're basically telling you is that, hey, if you want to be heard or seen, or if you want those likes, if you want those views, keep hating on Trump. It's drawing people to your page. Even if you wake up one day and let's say you had a traumatic experience and you're a creative person and you want to talk about it, no, you can't. All your audience only wants to see you hate on Trump. Do that. So I will, for example, people hit me up and tell me all the time, is like, the algorithm doesn't know how to classify the NiceCast. Like, you can talk about superhero films one day and then you'll be talking about Indian mythology the next, and it's like, it throws people off, and they're like, do you regret handling social media that way? And my response is very simple. It's like, no, I don't. Some days I'll wake up and I'm like really passionate about superhero films and the culture there. And for example, last year they said that streaming, a lot of the superhero films are not just going to come directly to HBO Max. So that was a huge conversation. And then some days I want to just talk to you guys about what karma is and Indian ideas and yoga and what that actually means, and not what the Western version of that is. And it's all about, like I said, it really just comes down to being just who you are. And we haven't set enough of a precedent, I feel like, amongst creative people on social media for that to be the norm. All the other stuff becomes a norm, but not that.
You just talked about yoga for a second. And I used to live in Kona, Hawaii, and it was incredible. There was this guy who was much shorter than me. He was probably 350. He had a staph infection. His leg was really swollen the whole time I was there. And anyways, this guy was a yoga master.
Connoisseur. Yeah.
Yeah. He would have these classes, and he was this absolutely huge guy. And you think, okay, and it's just stereotypes. So I'm thinking, and then when you see him, it's just like, it broke every idea I had about what somebody that could teach yoga could be. It's really interesting. Yeah. You think about that just in general, a general overview of society and society in general.
I feel like it can unlock a lot of the body's natural healing powers, amongst other things, and just, I think, spiritual awareness, psychological awareness, clarity, a bunch of stuff. So yeah, it's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And like I said, that is one of the biggest contributions we have to the world throughout history. And as Indians, we don't take any pride in that. That's really scary to me. We'll save that for the second episode.
All right, perfect.
I'll
So, we have the same problem with this podcast because where do you get classified? We have a guy that's special service op. We have somebody who's an entrepreneur. We have somebody selling on Amazon. We have somebody who's an actor. What's the demographic?
That's amazing that you have that versatility. You're just a people podcast.
It's a people podcast, but try marketing a people podcast.
You can't.
The algorithm's not picking it up. It's very hard to do. So,
because even if it picks up the one about an entrepreneur, they're gonna now be like, all right, so this is an entrepreneurial podcast, so now all you can do is have entrepreneurs on. But you're a creator. No, I don't always want to talk to entrepreneurs. What if I have a chance to have a politician on? What do you want me to not take a politician because I'm afraid that the algorithm is not gonna hype that post up? And that's what I was saying. It's so easy to, once you know how the game is set up, it's easy to game it. But it's at some point, do you even care to? It's like if you gentlemen keep doing your thing, like you guys are able to have an amazing conversation, and you know how to direct the conversation to get the most out of the guest. That's rare. Like I said, no algorithm can defy the value of that.
Yeah, we're gonna give it our best. Even in this podcast, we've gone all over the place. So where do you even, how will the algorithm even pick this one up? I wanted to say this earlier on, but Hayden lived in India for a few months.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you gone back to India?
I haven't been back since 1996. That's the last time I visited. So it's been a while. But I definitely want to make a trip. Hopefully this year if things open back up.
He went there because of he loves music, he loves diversity. So he went over there to teach for a while, and he can jump in any time. I know he's in the background there, but
Hayden, I'd love to know your experiences there. What was the culture like? A lot of people I know, for example, Steve Jobs went to India, so it seems like anytime anyone goes to India, they look for those profound spiritual moments. So I'm curious if Hayden had anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I had that kind of path. It was also directed because it was more for work. Like I was teaching at it's called the Global Music Institute, teaching like jazz classes, like jazz ensemble, jazz theory school there. So I was kind of in a bubble of like Western music, which was a little bizarre because like I'd step out of my apartment and get the full taste of New Delhi.
Yeah.
And then you step into the school and it's very Western, like Western notation. And that was what they were kind of specializing in. But I mean, I remember just, like the culture shock, but also just how vivid I think day-to-day life was. Like the color, the smells.
It's very chaotic, right?
Chaotic, but yeah, it's chaos, but it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean,
were you there during the heart of the summer by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Did your body do okay with the heat?
It was a bit intense. Like I remember, I think I was outside. It was one of the hottest days where it was in the sun for about 15 minutes and I could feel my skin starting to burn. Yeah. So, obviously there's challenges.
For sure.
Not being used to it. But I mean, yeah, it's one of my most favorite experiences I've had.
Nice.
I think I brought it up on the podcast before, but specifically I did get to check out some North Indian classical music while I was there. And just to see how, obviously the level of the musicianship, but also how it's such like a community experience where I was looking around the audience and everyone was keeping track of the song.
I remember you talking about this.
Yeah. Wow. They know the material so well that they start clapping like 2 minutes before the ending of the song because they know what's coming.
Damn.
And it was just, as a musician, it like totally blew my mind, like how involved the audience was with it. And
nice.
Yeah, I definitely recommend everyone go there.
Yeah, hopefully we can get you back too.
Yeah.
You never got to really do what you wanted to do in India because, and again, the Western side, you think of India, you might think of New Delhi, but the different areas, I absolutely want to get into the north. I want to go to India and explore the north, but all over. I have a bunch of people I work with that are in different provinces in India, completely different. If I talk to them from day to day, just different look, different everything. And the most important part, different food. So that's what I want to explore.
It's one of the most diverse countries, and it's even historically the idea of plurality was always encouraged in India. So you could be or believe in anything, and it was just like, all right, that's what you believe, great, we empower it, cool, and then it's easy to blame everything on colonization, but that definitely had a lot of negative effects I feel like psychologically a lot of us still struggle with. And
Hey,
to
look
go
at
back to it, we don't
Hawaii.
talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah,
To go back to it, we
Hawaii.
don't talk about it enough. So how can we ever heal
Yeah.
what we don't talk about? Or, Jay-Z has his lyric, you can't heal what you don't reveal. So one of the things that I often struggle with is imposter syndrome, because, for example, when it comes to creative endeavors, like I was saying, no one in my family has ever done it. So now when certain opportunities come my way, for the longest time, I would have just this cloud of self-doubt come over me. And I would start to say like, okay, no, I'm being crazy. Like, no, this isn't going to work. I can't do this. I think I can do this, but I don't really think I can do this. And once that imposter syndrome kicks in, it's like we don't often believe in ourselves in the way that we should. Because we don't have anyone to like, for me, for example, like there's no blueprint of what I want to accomplish. There's not to sound pretentious or arrogant, but like there's no Indian creator I can look at and say, and even just study. Forget getting to know them and asking them to mentor me. It's like no one has even set that blueprint before. So you're kind of just learning as you're going,
That's yeah. I've really never thought about it that way. But yeah, what do you do? How do you handle that?
That's a great question, Norm. Like I said, I think for me, it's just like painfully reflecting and going to those dark places and just being like, all right, there may be some nuggets of information that I'll come away with through those sessions. Because for me, I often think about where I am in my life right now, and even though I'm not where I want to be, it's like I'm only here because things didn't work out, and for that reason, it gives me a certain level of clarity in the sense that I guess I have to appreciate the imposter syndrome because it gives me sort of fuel to constantly evolve and try to get better and learn more, as opposed to feeling like, oh, okay, I'm getting these opportunities, I'm amazing, I'm blessed, I'm this and that. So looking at it from the positive angle, and even going back to like social media culture, there's a lot of positive platitudes that just get spread about, oh, love yourself, and oh, think positive thoughts, and oh, you can manifest anything you ever wanted. Go ahead and manifest 1 million followers. That's all you have to do is manifest it. The law of attraction, it'll all come to you. And I'm sort of the reverse of that, where I just like to completely break myself down, because I feel like if you do that, if you truly do that, that's where all the insights are. The insights and the secrets of your life are all in those moments where shit didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Not when it did, ironically, at least from my experience. So that's kind of just how I deal with it. Now, the imposter syndrome aspect of it, I'm getting better at handling. And that is just sort of the clarity of saying like, okay, the realization that I don't know everything, or I don't know anything. All I know is that I can, with enough dedication and time and hard work, I can handle any challenge by just learning. And you can only learn if you can acknowledge that you don't know shit, So there's a lot of people I feel like who will present themselves as experts and stuff. And yeah, I'm personally not a fan of that model. And I'd be curious, Norm, on how you feel about it, because I think a lot about stuff and I'm like, okay, I always wonder what is the difference between someone who hasn't made it and someone who has made it. Like if you were to ask the person who hasn't made it, they would have a drastically different way they'd speak to you, as opposed to if you talk to an uber successful person. They'll sit there and give you the blueprint. They'll sit there and tell you, oh, do this. I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then I did this and then I did this. And it's like, is that, I don't know. That's where I get conflicted with the positive talk and the positive advice. Not to say there's not any value in it. I just kind of feels like it comes off impractical to the person, where they're on the ground level, they're on the bottom, right? Like Joe Rogan, for example, giving you podcast advice on how to grow podcasts. It's like he's gonna give it to you through the lens of being successful, as opposed to someone who wasn't able to build it. They're going to give you things that you may be like, damn, like I not only connect more with what you're saying because I have experienced that, but wow, you just opened my mind to an idea. Like I never thought about it like that, you know?
When my first speaker appearance was in front of 1,500 people.
Mm.
And I turned down my sister-in-law to be the master of ceremonies because I am an introvert and I am absolutely afraid to talk to a bunch of people.
Mm.
And it to the point where I was when I went on stage the night before, 2 days before, I broke a molar. So I was in pain. So I got it. I had it filled, but it was that happened. And then I ended up, asthma. I had an asthma attack the day of going on because I was thinking about this so bad. I ended up going up there and I got through it, but I practiced that one presentation probably for a month. I was that nervous. And again, you talk about imposter syndrome. Like, why do people want to listen to me? I don't get it. And but what I've learned from that, and just from what I've taken away from that, is that I don't go and I don't tell anybody about making it get rich quick. I come from it a different way, and I talk to them. Hey, I went under. I did this. I ended up, failing here, here, and here. This, these failure or these successes that you see that might be around me, it's all due to 5 times the failures.
Yeah.
And that's when, I think I can identify with some of the people in the audience. And then, I tell people, again, it's just this, when you go and you start talking to people, just don't, you want to absorb, what people are saying, but you've got to apply it. You've got to take action. Most people, when you're talking, they take things and it's just great intentions and they never apply it. Then they say what I learned, sucked. But if you do it, and I say, hey, look, I don't care talking to as many people as I want after a presentation or during a podcast. I'll stay on as long. Here's my email. I answer everyone. But don't go and ask me how to run your business. Mm-hmm. If you want me to solve an issue for you, that's going to get you over a hurdle or is going to help you out. But you've got to act on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is that as long as I approach it that way, great. If I approach it as I know everything and I come at you and I'm talking down to you, like a lot of people do, I think that would be a lot tougher for me to be that type of expert. I know what I can do. I've got a proven track record, but I've also got a proven failure record.
Sure.
So
yeah, anyways. And even just contextualizing any positive, I don't want to use a positive, I guess any contextualizing your experiences of, like, if someone asks you, hey, Norm, help me with this problem, you can say, hey, I can tell you what I would do, or this is what my experiences had led me down this path of perceiving it this way, but figure it out. If you want it, figure it out.
Oh my gosh.
It's really that simple. If you're not willing to try new things, and if you're not willing to really push yourself and have the mindset that I need to acquire skills, as many of them as possible, so it's not even just one. Like I was telling you, I started podcasting in library study rooms, and now I'm at filmmaking. I would have never have thought that would be the thing, right? I would have never have foresaw that for myself. But what happened was, as I started podcasting, guys, I started learning a lot about social media content. One realization led to another. So then I just started seeing, like, okay, what would be sort of a thing? Because the hurdle I was running into was kind of what I was alluding to in the past, where I would tell people that podcasting is an art form. There's work that goes into it. And people were kind of giving me negative feedback in regards to that. They were saying, like, oh, you're not even that compelling of a person, so your podcast is trash. And they would say stuff like that. So then what that did for me was it told me that a lot of people don't perceive podcast as creativity. I do, because I look at what you do, and we look at it through the same pair of eyes. So then that led me down to the realization that, okay, I need to now if I feel like I can podcast, I need to now acquire a new skill set that may be taken seriously. And then I have to figure out a way where I can blend both of them together so they're both then advantageous to me. So if you're going to go ask Gary Vee for advice, Gary Vee may or may not tell you that. Gary Vee is just going to tell you what he tells everyone else, to his Instagram followers about, oh, just put your head down, do the work. And while that's true, and he'll also say, don't care about followers, don't care about metrics, don't care about, also true, but figure it out for yourself. If you really want it, point blank. It really comes down to that. And that's how you'll know you really want it. If you're just in a constant state of, if you're just in this influx of ideas, one after another, you're like, all right, if this doesn't work, I'll try this. Or if this doesn't work, at least I've learned this. That's how you know you really want it. So you just got to figure it out.
Yeah. The more common questions that I'll get are, how can I become a success, a business success, product success? Well, how long is a piece of string? It's hard to tell a person who's in the pet niche, podcast, garden gnome. It's completely different way, a completely different path. And there's all sorts of different business models. And so to really answer a question accurately, and even to give some half good advice, you have to know about the product or the service or whatever it is. And so you get the blanket statements or questions, and you feel bad, but you really do have to give a very generic answer. How can I help you? And then I hate when somebody says, well, what do you mean this doesn't work? And
yeah,
it's a tough question.
Like if you consider yourself to be a garden hose expert and you want to have a podcast on garden hoses, then you would have to think, okay, let's say I do 10 podcast episodes on garden hoses and they don't do as well as I thought, or I'm not getting the traction or whatever. Then you have to ask yourself, like, okay, if I really do love talking about this, if I love garden hoses so much, how can I communicate further ideas about them? So now you're then in like this skill acquisition mode. So now you're like, okay, I'm comfortable talking on a microphone. Can I now talk on camera? If you talk on camera, that opens up YouTube. If you can talk on camera, that may open up TikTok videos. That may open up IGTV. That may open up Instagram stories. It opens up a whole new world. So now, like I said, it's all skill acquisition. And once you talk on camera, then it's like, okay, what's the best way to shoot a garden hose? Because can I make this visually appealing without making it feel like it's too overproduced? And see, it's just like infinite branching points, And it's just a matter of if you're gonna engage with those, or if you're just gonna look for someone to tell you what to do and how to do it. I don't see the fun behind that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm just looking at the clock and we're winding down. We talked for 90 minutes. Wow. And I've got just a couple questions left, and then we're going to have you on another podcast. We're going to book you right away. But let's talk about, typically, we'll go down that first rabbit hole where leads us to a bunch of others, which it did, by the way, if you haven't noticed.
We went all over with this.
We went all over, which was really, beautiful. I loved it. But let's talk about your struggles. What has been your biggest struggle? How did you overcome it? And what did you learn from it?
The biggest struggle was learning to trust my intuition. And you overcome it when you like reflect and you see moments with, for example, the same day shipping thing I was telling you about. That was back in like 2005. So you had a moment of, I guess, intuition talking to you, and you're like, okay, this will be cool to pursue, but then you just kind of talk yourself out of it. So that's been my biggest struggle, is talking myself out of things. And I can't say I've fully overcome that yet, but I kind of now contextualize it where, like, if I don't act on it and someone else does, then I'm just gonna hate myself more. So if there's an opportunity to not hate myself in the future, then I should probably act upon it. And that kind of contextualized it for me. So now if I have ideas for things in the future, it's like, okay, figure out a way to act on this immediately before someone else does it, and then they reap the rewards, or who knows what could come from it. So yeah, that's been the thing. And you know, Indian mythology, I think another thing that people have messed up is the idea of karma. So karma often gets interpreted as what goes around comes around.
Right.
But that's not what karma actually is. It's like a westernized understanding of what karma is. So karma is just pure action. So for example, you can record 100 podcast episodes and 10 people listen to each of them. It's just action. You're just acting. What you have control over is your action and your intent and how you react to what happens. You actually don't have control over what manifests from it. So you could be doing 100 podcast episodes and 100 of them have 10 views and the 101st one has 1 million. And you have to be like, okay, that is what karma is. It's like, in a weird way, it's just like random, but in also another way, it just forces you to just buckle down and just put the work in. So I kind of look at my intuition and stuff and not acting on it in the past. It was like, okay, so me not acting on it was karma. Now, if I act on it and something comes from it, that's also going to be karma. And if it doesn't go anywhere, and then maybe it was just me just hyping myself up and thinking I had this genius idea when I really didn't. Oh, well, at least you tried it. At least you were able to get over that hump of, you know, talking yourself out of things.
Last 2 Christmases ago, so bald head, I travel a lot, and I hate going on to a plane and putting my head back on the seat or putting my head against the window or touching the food tray. I'm not a germaphobe, but I'm aware of it. And so I went when we went to our families for the holidays. I said, we got to do something. Travel wipes, like these travel wipes. I want to create them. And my family does have, they're involved in screen wipes and stuff like that. But I thought, I need this. I'll sell them to the airport, or airlines. Year goes by, and look what happened. Everybody and his mother were now travel wipes, and I'm thinking about something. You could just wipe the seat down so you don't get somebody else's germs on the back of your head or on the.
Mm-hmm. And how prophetic was that, Norm? Like, really think about that. So it's deep when it gets when you start reflecting and thinking about it. You're like, damn, had I just acted in that moment, who knows like what it would have been, you know? Yeah. It's depressing, but I also think it's oddly empowering because it gives you confidence in your own ideas. So with the podcast or any other future thing you have coming, if you have an idea for it, you know, it puts you in a state where you're like, damn, this is actually a good idea. Maybe I should pursue this. Maybe I shouldn't talk myself out of it.
Very good. And same thing goes back to you about talking yourself out of it.
Yeah.
So what's your biggest success?
Definitely when I have people, I think South Asians all across the world will reach out and say, damn, we're not in like this self-serving type of way, but they're like, oh, we're inspired by you because you're kind of breaking cultural stereotypes. Even though my audience isn't in the millions, or even though I'm not a celebrity or a public figure or anything like that, the fact that the NiceCast has had that impact is something that I think, like we talked about throughout here, is like you can't really put a metric value on it or a monetary value on it. So I would definitely say that if other South Asians are looking at me and saying, okay, damn, I have an artistic drive or I have an artistic idea and I want to pursue it, and he did it and I want to also do it, that to me is without question the biggest success thus far.
Very good. Okay, well, I think you're off the hook. You're off the hook, buddy.
Thank you for having me on. It was a great conversation.
Man, the time flew. I really, really enjoyed talking with you.
Likewise.
I want to reach out and get you again on a podcast, and we'll talk about anything. I don't know what we'll talk about, but really just enjoyed it. So thank you for coming on. I do have one question, by the way.
Sure.
At the end of every podcast, we ask our guest, do they know a guy?
Yeah, so I know this guy named Vic. He's in Orlando. He has his own media company called Brand Crumbs. He's also a aspiring filmmaker. He works with a lot of local businesses down here, producing podcasts and stuff. And he's just really talented and gifted at what he does. So I would love to see him on here and you guys chopping it up with him and his experiences.
Fantastic. We will definitely be reaching out to him. So again, thank you for coming on to the podcast, and gonna have you back on.
Thank you, Norm.
Well, that flew by.
Yeah, tell me about it. I have no idea where that time went. I love the interview. And I got to check out this other social media platform, Vero. I've never heard of it before, but I mean, if he's using it, I got to check it out. And the other thing, I don't know what's going to happen from this, but it's one of these things I hope we can just make happen. But doing something on Clubhouse, together, opening up a room and just talking, I don't know if it'll be current events. I have no idea, but I just love the way that he carried the conversation. Well, put it this way. Maybe the reason why I liked it so much is I didn't have to think.
Well, when do you ever think?
Not that often, but
So what you're saying is we had a podcast between two podcasters who are now going to possibly start another podcast on Clubhouse.
Well, I don't know if that was said we do it, but potentially get on and just see what we can do.
Yeah. Well, our listeners can keep an eye out. They can go over to Facebook for the time being and join our group, and we'll keep you posted with any updates with this. This could be a really cool turn.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for listening. Next week, we have Travis Clower. Travis is what we consider to be a Broadway star. He's best known for his lead role as Frankie Valli in the hit Broadway musical Jersey Boys. We dig into how he found his way into that role and how that launched his career afterwards. You don't want to miss it. Anyway, that's enough for me, and I'll see you next time.